evening and welcome to our Tuesday, March 21, 2017 edition of the Government News Brief. In the news this evening, former workers at the Wales estate are being encouraged to explore several options to earn a livelihood. The Ministry of Public Health calls on stakeholders to participate in the elimination of neglected infectious diseases, and the Ministry of Social Protection heightens efforts to tackle trafficking in persons and migrant smuggling. Stay tuned for these and other stories. Thank you for staying with us. I am Renetta LaFleur. Here are the details. Minister of Agriculture Noel Holder says the closure of the sugar factory is not the end of the livelihoods for Wales estate workers. Paul McAdam tells us more.
The closure of the sugar factory at Wales estate does not mean the end of the livelihoods of those who were dependent on its operation. This is the view of Agriculture Minister Noel Holder. He explains that the infrastructure for drainage and irrigation for large portion of the lands formerly used for cane cultivation will be maintained at costs estimated to be between $200 to $400 million annually. These lands can be used for other purposes, he notes.
It would be a shame to let this infrastructure, which is drained to the river and irrigated from the conservancies, go to waste. Now this is where you like to see serious farming. Be like a cattle farmer. If you are a cattle farmer, would like to become a cattle farmer, could get some acres of land, 50 acres or whatever it is, put it down to pastures like antelope grass, live on your farm, milk your cows there, once or twice a day, and bring it to the collection station, which will be here at Wales.
The minister, who accompanied a team of several of his cabinet colleagues and Guyana Sugar Corporation officials, interacted with former employees and residents of the West Bank Demerara community on March 17. Minister Holder reminded that the Wales factory site could be utilized in several other ways to support diversification efforts.
A milk plant could go there, right? A fruit plant could go there. You can have collection stations for milk there. All this could be done with the thousands of acres we have. Other acres could go into orchard crops, could go into coconuts. Coconuts is a big thing in the world now. Coconut water is required, extra virgin coconut oil, apparently it's good for Alzheimer's. Everybody wants it. In short, let us convert our thinking away from sugar and into having this community be virtually a prototype of what could happen all over this country.
Supporting his colleague was Minister of Public Security Kamraj Ramjatan. He's urging stakeholders to think outside the box.
We gotta somehow dream a little differently and have other options and so on. And that is why we are saying that it is not closed off only in relation to sugar or nothing. Because that is what the impression I was getting. It is not sugar or nothing. It's alternative arrangements being made. And in the context of what is happening internationally, we just have to make that transition. The
closure of several factories and diversification of the local sugar industry is being pursued by government for several reasons. These include Gaisuco being operated at a loss for more than 12 years prior, and with more than $35 billion alone being spent on the industry during the last 3 years. Sugar prices are also predicted to further decline as other countries use alternatives to sugar. Paul McAdam for the Government News Brief.
Stakeholders are being urged to intensify efforts to combat neglected and infectious diseases. Delicia Haynes has the details.
Health sector stakeholders were today engaged in discussions aimed at creating a strategy to end neglected infectious diseases in Guyana. The Vector Control Unit of the Ministry of Public Health is advocating for increased support of the National Action Plan for NIDs. Technical advisor to the minister within the Ministry of Public Health, Dr. Samantha Kennedy, says that stakeholder forums accommodate the collective efforts and ideas of concerned participants.
The Ministry of Public Health recognizes that in order to comprehensively address neglected infectious diseases in Guyana, it needs to strengthen even further primary healthcare systems as platforms for national control programs and capacity building through implementation of these programs. The establishment of close partnerships with international donors like Global Fund International partners like PAHO WHO, pharmaceutical industries, communities, and non-governmental organizations is very essential.
The objective of the meeting was generally aimed at building and fostering relationships with various stakeholders to raise awareness and buy-in related to the elimination of NIDs locally. Moreover, stakeholders at the meeting will update the national existing approach to NIDs and review existing operational research.
All NID, all neglected infectious diseases, are subject or are being targeted worldwide for elimination. When people speak about SDH elimination, we look at it and say this is impossible, but this is exactly what the countries aim to do.
The meeting featured presentations by health officials highlighting the need for data gathering, which will foster knowledge-based decision-making. Additionally, there are factors which would make the elimination of NIDs possible. Some of these are epidemiological, technological, and historical, but the most important is the high level of commitment from government and stakeholder partners. For the Government News Brief, Delicia Haynes.
Guyana continues to work on reducing human trafficking and migrant smuggling. Its latest effort is a peer-to-peer exchange meeting. Neil Damon has more.
The Ministry of Social Protection, in collaboration with African Caribbean Pacific Group of States and the European Union, is hosting a 3-day dialogue on migration and development. Ministerial Advisor Alicia Jerome Rees says that the Ministry of Social Protection's collaboration with the International Organization for Migration, IOM, aims to discuss the efforts made to eradicate trafficking in persons and smuggling of migrants.
We've already implemented legislation, the counter-trafficking legislation, and we've already ratified numerous international conventions in relation to trafficking in persons. So basically this morning the presentation was on our efforts to counter trafficking in persons, the work of the Inter-Ministerial Task Force on Trafficking, what they've been doing, and Guyana's commitment towards this entire process.
Ministerial Advisor explains that the Social Protection Ministry's aim is to host more training exercises. She notes that the ministry recognizes that more emphasis has to be placed on human trafficking and migrant smuggling.
There is a hotline where persons can report if there's a suspected case of trafficking in persons. Persons can do that. The Interministerial Task Force, they've been doing extensive work in terms of providing training to medical practitioners and police officers so they can be more aware and alert as to how to deal with victims of trafficking in persons, and also to identify victims of trafficking and to offer referral mechanisms for them. Well, in terms of smuggling, we're doing a lot of work in that department because we realize that we're dealing with mostly trafficking in persons, and as they said at this meeting here, that it's two separate issues, So I think we would have to place more emphasis on doing work in that department.
The dialogue on migration and development will focus on the ideas and efforts needed to secure the safety of the citizens within the ACP EU countries. Neil Damon for Government News Brief.
The Ministry of Communities held another round of consultations on the draft National Integrated Solid Waste Management Strategy 2017 to 2030. More from Gabriela Patram.
Students and lecturers of the University of Guyana were part of the ongoing discussions as part of the ministry's ongoing effort to engage a wide cross-section of the general public. This is aimed at ensuring it fully reflects their input and advice. Head of the Sanitation Management Unit of the ministry, Gordon Gilks, explains that in order for a document to be finalized, discussions must be held.
To have this discourse on this draft integrated management strategy and what the lecturers and students of the university community would like to see as part of the strategy. The final document will then be presented to the government of Guyana for approval.
The public consultations were launched on August 26, 2016. Consultations have been completed in all 10 regions. The government also drafted a solid waste management bill, which seeks to harmonize all the legislations under the different agencies that address solid waste management locally. Environmental consultant on the strategy, Samuel Wright, explains.
A draft bill that was never passed, read in Parliament, that deals with solid waste management. And that bill in itself establishes a solid waste management authority like the EPA, DGMC, Land and Survey, and it would one of the things that would involve in that bill is talking about an inventory of solid waste, because one of the things about solid waste management in Guyana, we don't have the data. You go to the various communities and they cannot say how much waste is being produced. They cannot say what kinds of waste are being produced.
The ministry, through the Georgetown Solid Waste Management and with assistance from the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, developed the draft strategy. For the Government News Brief, Gabriela Patram.
The National Sports Commission, NSC, is looking to resuscitate the abandoned sports complex in New Amsterdam, Berbice, to provide another avenue for youth development. Isaiah Braffett reports.
The sports complex, which was once a sporting hub for New Amsterdam, is now in a dilapidated state. The complex, formerly operated and owned by the Berbice Mining Enterprise Limited, Bormine, is now the responsibility of the National Industrial Commercial Investments Limited, NISIL. Director of Sport Christopher Jones and a team from the National Sports Commission, along with the Mayor of New Amsterdam, visited the complex last Saturday. The intention is to take control of the site and make it the NSC's subcommittee headquarters in New Amsterdam.
As you note on the outside, this facility boasts a 25-yard pool that is in full working condition. There is only need for rehabilitation works to be done on the building. Downstairs there's a sports bar that could easily be rented out for income generation for the commission. There are several spaces that could accommodate persons wanting to host wedding receptions, parties, etc. So therefore we recognize that this space here can generate income on its own and pay for itself. But the first stage or the first step in that direction is that through our ministry we'll have to write officially to NISIL to acquire this building.
Jones says that the building's rehabilitation will cost approximately $200 million. His goal is to make the facility the main hub for sports-related activities in Regions 5 and 6. He adds that there will be similar initiatives in Regions 7, 8, 9 and 10. Mayor of New Amsterdam, Kirk Winter, is delighted to have the NSC acquire the building.
It was a vibrant building, but after Bormine was closed, everything was just left and it run down, deteriorated. So I'm glad now that the National Sports Commission is embarking on this venture of taking it up, restoring it, and, open it up back to the public where we can all enjoy the facilities once again.
Winter says that once the building is acquired, the council will be supportive in ensuring that the facilities are up and running again. Isaiah Braffett for the Government News Brief.
We have come to the end of today's edition of the Government News Brief. The details of these and other stories can be found on GINA's website. GINA has an active Facebook page and a YouTube channel. You can like us and follow us on Facebook to be updated as the news unfolds. Do join us again tomorrow for another edition of the Government News Brief. I am Renetta LaFleur. Thank you for watching.